Numbers. In a world searching for meaning, few texts have shaped history, hearts, and human identity like the Bible. But beyond the verses and chapters lies a story, ancient, eternal, and alive. Welcome to Speed Reads, where we journey book by book through Scripture, not in fragments but as sweeping narratives rich with depth, drama, and divine design. Whether you're rediscovering these sacred texts or exploring them for the first time, each episode brings you closer to the heartbeat of the Bible, one book at a time. The book of Numbers opens in the wilderness of Sinai, after the Israelites have been freed from Egypt. The name Numbers comes from the two censuses recorded in the book, one at the beginning and one near the end, but it's much more than a mere count of people. It is the story of a people on the move, journeying toward the promised land, but also a tale of disobedience, failure, and hope. It is a book about God's faithfulness to his promises, even when his people repeatedly fall short. The book begins with God commanding Moses to take a census of the Israelites. This is a significant moment, marking the transition from slavery to the formation of a distinct and organized nation. The census lists the heads of families and their military readiness, counting a total of over 600,000 men of fighting age, not including women, children, and the Levites. The tribe of Levi, set apart for sacred duties, is excluded from this count, as they are dedicated to the service of the tabernacle and the priesthood. The Israelites are then given detailed instructions on how they are to be arranged during their travels. They are to set up camp around the tabernacle, with the Ark of the Covenant in the center, symbolizing God's presence among them. The surrounding tribes are organized into groups, each with its specific position in the camp, reflecting the order and holiness of God's people. The order of the camp represents a divine order, with the presence of God at its heart, guiding and protecting the nation as they journey forward. The narrative soon shifts to the dedication of the Levites, who are consecrated to the service of God. They are to carry the tabernacle, its furnishings, and all sacred items as the Israelites move through the wilderness. This signifies the importance of the Levites' role in maintaining the holiness of the camp and leading the people in worship. The Levites' special role foreshadows the priesthood of all believers, who are called to be set apart for God's purposes. As the Israelites prepare to leave Sinai and begin their journey to the Promised Land, they are instructed to celebrate the Passover for the first time since their exodus from Egypt. The celebration of the Passover reaffirms God's covenant with his people and serves as a reminder of their deliverance from slavery. God also provides further instructions regarding purity, sacrifice, and the offerings required to maintain fellowship with him. However, the people's journey is not without challenges. As the Israelites begin their journey through the desert, they quickly become dissatisfied and complain. Their murmuring and rebellion are frequent themes throughout the book of Numbers. They complain about the lack of food, the monotony of manna, and their fear of the unknown future. The people's complaints reflect a lack of trust in God's provision and a deep desire for comfort and security. This attitude leads to several incidents of rebellion, the most notable being the complaint about the lack of water at Rephidim, when God instructs Moses to strike a rock and bring forth water, demonstrating his provision. In Numbers 11, the people begin to grumble about their situation and long for the food they had in Egypt, even though they had been in bondage. They despised the manna, which had been miraculously provided for them every day. God's response is both just and merciful. He sends quail for them to eat, but also sends a plague to punish them for their ungratefulness. This serves as a warning to the people about the dangers of dissatisfaction and disobedience, showing that even in the wilderness, God's blessings require gratitude and trust. In Numbers 12, Miriam and Aaron, Moses' siblings, challenge his leadership. They question his authority, perhaps out of jealousy or personal pride, and God responds by striking Miriam with leprosy. This incident is a painful reminder that God alone determines leadership, and those who rebel against his anointed leaders will face consequences. However, Moses, ever the humble servant, intercedes on behalf of his sister, and God heals Miriam after a week of isolation. As the Israelites continue their journey, they arrive at Kadesh Barnea, on the edge of the Promised Land. Here Moses sends 12 spies, one from each tribe, into the land to scout out the territory. The spies return with a report of a land flowing with milk and honey, but they also bring news of powerful inhabitants who live there. 10 of the spies are filled with fear and discouragement, saying that the land is unconquerable, while only 2, Joshua and Caleb, trust in God's promise and encourage the people to move forward in faith. The people, swayed by the negative report, rebel against God and refuse to enter the Promised Land. This act of unbelief is a turning point in the narrative, for God punishes the Israelites by condemning that entire generation to die in the wilderness. Only Joshua and Caleb, the two spies who trusted God, will live to see the promised land. This moment is pivotal, as it marks the beginning of a 40-year journey through the wilderness, a journey of testing, discipline, and preparation for the next generation to take possession of the land. Throughout the book, God provides further laws and instructions, many of which deal with the priesthood, sacrifices, and the holiness of the people. He also gives specific guidelines for the treatment of foreigners in the observance of festivals, ensuring that Israel's religious and social practices align with his will. These laws are intended to shape the people into a holy nation, distinct from the surrounding nations, and dedicated to God's service. As the Israelites continue their wandering, there are several key moments of rebellion. In Numbers 16, Korah, a Levite, leads a rebellion against Moses and Aaron, claiming that they have taken too much authority. God responds by opening up the earth and swallowing Korah and his followers, demonstrating his sovereignty and the importance of respecting his appointed leaders. This dramatic event serves as a reminder of the dangers of rebellion and self-exaltation. In Numbers 20, the Israelites again complain about the lack of water, and Moses, frustrated by their constant grumbling, strikes the rock twice instead of speaking to it as God had instructed. Because of this act of disobedience, Moses is told that he will not be allowed to enter the promised land. This serves as a sobering reminder that even great leaders are not immune to the consequences of disobedience. Despite the rebellion and failures of the people, God continues to be faithful to his promises. He provides them with victories over their enemies, including the defeat of the kings of the Amorites, and continues to guide them through the wilderness with a cloud by day and fire by night. The bronze serpent is lifted up in Numbers 21 as a symbol of healing, reminding the people that God's mercy and provision are available even in their rebellion. As the Israelites approach the promised land once again, Moses gives a series of speeches, recorded in Numbers 22 through 24, recounting God's faithfulness and urging the people to remain obedient. In these speeches, we encounter the story of Balaam, a non-Israelite prophet who is hired to curse Israel by Balak, the king of Moab. However, God intervenes and causes Balaam to bless Israel instead of cursing them, further affirming God's protection and favor upon his people. The book of Numbers concludes with the Israelites poised on the brink of entering the promised land, having completed their long journey through the wilderness. The generation that had doubted God's promise has passed away, and a new generation born in the wilderness stands ready to claim the land. The book ends with a reminder of God's holiness, justice, and faithfulness, and the assurance that his promises will be fulfilled, no matter the obstacles. Thank you for joining this deep dive into the living story of Scripture. As we move through each book, remember, these ancient words are not just history, they're mirrors, windows, and signposts pointing us to something greater. If this journey stirred something in you, subscribe to Speed Reads and walk with us through every chapter of God's unfolding masterpiece. Until next time, stay curious, stay grounded, and keep reading the Word, slowly or quickly.